open world games, by their very nature, generally tend to cast a wide net where approachability and challenge are concerned. And even within a single game, you can have significantly different experiences from moment to moment or area to area. A byproduct of that, of course, is areas that are much more challenging than most other parts of the game, ones that stand out in memory based on the difficulty they offer. Here, we're going to talk about a few such examples. Please note there are spoilers ahead for all games mentioned in this feature. HALIGTREE, Elden Ring. It wouldn't be entirely inaccurate to say that Elden Ring's HALIGTREE is probably the first name that comes to mind for a feature like this, but there's no denying that this is easily one of the more brutal areas in a game that's by no means lacking in challenge as it is. Unpredictable enemy placements, enemy types that can easily one-shot you, the looming threat of deadly status ailments, tricky movement and platforming challenges, and all of it, of course, culminating in one of the most grueling experiences in the game, OKB-ZERO, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. There's no shortage of Metal Gear fans out there who aren't the biggest fans of the open world approach taken by the Phantom Pain. If you're in the group, OKB-ZERO is probably one of your favorite areas in the game, and why shouldn't it be? The tightly designed and meticulously crafted stealth gauntlets that the series has always been known for serve as the template for OKB-ZERO. A vast location full of indoor and outdoor environments, multiple paths and shortcuts, and threats aplenty, from walkers and enemy soldiers to so much more. Getting through the area is no easy task, but boy, is it incredibly rewarding. Washington National Airport, The Division 2. Well, this one makes instant sense. Operation Dark Hours is one of the raids on offer in The Division 2, so by default, it pretty much has to be challenging. That's kind of the whole point of raiding, after all. And Washington National Airport, the area where this raid is set, definitely doesn't disappoint on that front. A plethora of bosses and mini-bosses, swarms of enemies who come at you with devilish tactics and abilities, and more combine to make the dilapidated remains of the location feel that much more oppressive. If you and your team aren't properly working together, there's little hope for getting through this raid. Hyrule Town and Castle Ruins, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild isn't exactly a challenging game. In fact, the whole experience is built around letting players find their own fun, which means that, though there's no shortage of difficult content, it's the sort that you're going to have to go and look for, well, for the most part. As you approach the end of the critical path, you're tasked with getting through the ruins of Hyrule Castle and Hyrule Town, though the former can be skipped. And in these areas, the difficulty ramps up significantly. Both locations are full of dangerous mobs of enemies and a startling number of guardians, all homing in on you with their deadly laser blasts. Add to that what feels like an ocean of Calamity Ganon's corruption, and what you have is an appropriately grueling trek to the final boss. Old Sawmill, Days Gone. If you've played Days Gone, you probably expected the Old Sawmill to be somewhere in this list, and you had a very good reason to, of course. SIE Bend Studios' post-apocalyptic open-world game is hiding some nasty challenges within its ocean of content, much of which is optional. But one of the standout moments in the game has to be the absolutely ginormous horde of freakers at the Old Sawmill. Chances are, if you haven't played it yourself, you've at least seen clips of it, and yes, it's exactly as thrilling, chaotic, and challenging as it looks. Making the best use of your entire arsenal and all of the hazards in your surroundings is absolutely crucial if you want to clear out this horde. San Francisco Ruins: Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Forbidden West sees Aloy moving ever westward throughout her journey, and in the final hours of the game, she finds herself in the ruins of San Francisco, and it is magnificent. There's just something about the desolate beauty of the once gleaming city's overgrown and crumbling remains, but of course what really sells it is that the difficulty is cranked up in this area. You've got a lot more machines to contend with, most of them of a far more threatening variety than in earlier areas, with the likes of Slitherfangs, Slaughter Spines, Snapjaws, and much more. It's an area that begs to be explored, and while you're doing it, you never quite feel like you're entirely safe. Zona Tres, Just Cause 4. For the purposes of this feature, we're looking at a very specific mission in Just Cause 4 here. Called Zone Tray Upload, the mission tasks Rico with infiltrating a science center and stealing its weather data. And as most people who've played through the game will tell you, it's easily one of the most challenging sections from beginning to end. Dealing with everything from turrets to snipers to enemies with some of the deadliest weaponry in the game, having to protect the transmitter while fending off an attack from overwhelming forces, all of it ending with another final push through a cavalcade of relentless enemies. It's an almost abrupt, and not too awfully long-lived, bump in difficulty that truly takes you by surprise, especially given how not particularly challenging the rest of the game is. Greenhaven Arc Rage 2. Let's speak about another Avalanche-developed game. 2019's Rage 2 is a game with many issues, with a bland and uninteresting open world being one of them, but some areas of the world are quite eventful to say the very least, with the Greenhaven Arc being a prime example. Getting through the entire area doesn't take too long, but it feels like quite the hurdle given the combat gauntlets it puts you through. When Rage 2's combat is in full flow, the game really does show its potential, and sure, it's a shame that it doesn't happen nearly often as we'd like, but this is definitely one of the areas where the gunplay feels just right. HEARTMAN'S Lab, Death Stranding. Death Stranding is a weird game to judge when it comes to things like difficulty, and a bunch of other stuff for that matter. There's very little combat in the game, and most of it is focused almost entirely on traversal and exploration. Even within that framework, however, getting to Hartman's lab feels like a mountain you have to overcome, and well, that's literally what it is. Getting to the lab will see you experiencing one of the most grueling treks in the game, with tricky mountainous terrain, horrible weather, blankets of deep snow as far as the eye can see, and areas that are crawling with BTs. Gunner Plaza, Fallout 4. Appropriately enough for a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland, Fallout 4's world is riddled with areas that are pretty much a death sentence in all but name to any who dare to enter, especially until you're properly equipped for them. And being properly equipped for Gunner Plaza is no easy task. By far, this is the most challenging area in the entire game. If not, it's at least in the top 3. Machine gun turrets, foes armed with deadly weaponry, and more combined for what feels like a never-ending barrage of hellfire from all directions, while the infamous mini-nuke guy on that damn roof has haunted the nightmares of many players as well. And if you want a really difficult experience, try playing through it on survival difficulty. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.